Part 5. The flight back to the station was strange. Krell kept looking back at his passengers like he couldn't believe they were real. Hyun-soo sat quietly, making sure his plant sample stayed secure during the flight. Minho clutched the data chip like it was made of gold. You grew vegetables, Krell said for the third time. On Virtus 7 you grew vegetables. Tomatoes mostly, Hyun-soo said, and some beans. The soil is actually very good once you understand it. Krell made a sound that might have been a laugh or a cry. I've been flying for 40 years. Seen 1,000 worlds, but I've never seen anything like this. He looked at Hyun-soo. They sent you there to die. I know. You're not angry? Hyun-soo thought about it. Being angry wouldn't help. Surviving helped. Understanding helped. Now I get to go home and share what I learned. He smiled. That's better than being angry. When they docked at the station, word had already spread. The impossible mission had succeeded. The human survived. He brought back a Kithari researcher everyone thought was dead. The docking bay was crowded with people waiting to see. Medical teams rushed forward as the door opened. Doctors with scanners and worried faces. They surrounded Hyun-soo and Minho immediately. Don't move, one doctor said, a being that looked like a floating crystal. We need to scan you for contamination. The scanners ran over them. Alarms started beeping. Red lights flashed. The doctors looked at each other in confusion. These readings can't be right, the crystal doctor said. You're both showing toxic compounds in your bloodstream that should be lethal. We feel fine, Minho said. Better than fine, Hyun-soo added. They were taken to the medical bay despite their protests. For 2 hours, doctors ran every test they could think of. They took blood samples, scanned organs, checked brain activity. The results confused everyone. Hyun-soo was healthier than when he left. His immune system was stronger. His cell regeneration was faster. The toxic compounds in his blood weren't hurting him. They were improving him. This is impossible, one doctor kept saying. These toxins should have killed you in hours. Maybe for your species, Hyun-soo said patiently. But humans are different. We adapt. It's what we do. Ji-woo pushed through the crowd of doctors and found Hyun-soo sitting on a medical bed, calmly drinking tea while people argued around him about his blood work. You're alive, she said. She sounded like she might cry. I promised to try for 4 days, Hyun-soo said. I made it 7. And I brought gifts. He reached into his pack, which the doctors had tried to take, but he refused to give up. He pulled out a small packet of seeds. Tomato seeds, crossed with Virtus 7 plants. They'll grow almost anywhere and produce fruit that's better than earth tomatoes. Thought you might like to try growing them. Ji-woo took the seeds with shaking hands. Then she did something that surprised both of them. She hugged him. Don't ever do that again, she said into his shoulder. Do what? Survive? Go somewhere expecting to die. Hyun-soo patted her back awkwardly. I'll try. The debriefing happened in the council chamber. The same room where this all started. Taemin stood beside Hyun-soo and Minho as they faced the assembled aliens. Commander Velrath looked at them with his cold red eyes. You were sent to retrieve data. Did you succeed? Minho stepped forward and held up the data chip. All research data recovered. 8 months of information about Virtus 7's ecosystem, plus automatic recordings the computer made after the facility was abandoned. The data is complete, Velrath took the chip. Good. Your service will be noted. He started to turn away. There's more, Hyun-soo said. The room went quiet. Velrath turned back. More? Hyun-soo opened his pack and started pulling things out. Seeds in labeled packets, dried leaves in sealed containers, carefully preserved samples. His notebooks full of sketches and notes. Virtus 7 isn't a death world, Hyun-soo said. It's one of the most valuable planets in this sector. Maybe in the galaxy. The plants there produce compounds worth more than most precious metals. Medical treatments, energy stimulants, industrial materials. He placed everything on the table in front of the council. And food. Really good food. He pulled out a small jar. This is tea from Virtus 7. I'd like the council to try it. There was uncomfortable silence. A Throxian delegate bubbled in their tank. You want us to drink poison from the death planet? I want you to drink tea from a garden planet, Hyun-soo corrected. He poured water from a thermos into cups he had brought. Added the dried leaves. Let them steep. The smell filled the chamber, sweet and spicy and unlike anything they had smelled before. He offered the first cup to Velrath. Please. Velrath stared at the cup like it might explode. But slowly, carefully, he took a sip. His eyes widened. He took another sip. He couldn't find words. This is excellent. Other delegates tried the tea. Reactions were the same: surprise, pleasure. One delegate asked if there was more. Hyun-soo smiled. There can be. The plants grow fast. With proper cultivation, Virtus 7 could produce tea for the entire galaxy, along with medicine, food, and materials, but only if we work with the planet instead of against it. Minho stepped forward to support him. The human is correct. I survived on Virtus 7 for 8 months by learning to cooperate with the ecosystem instead of fighting it. Corporal Hyun-soo survived by treating a hostile environment like a farm. He used agricultural knowledge instead of military force. Impossible, another delegate said. Our best soldiers died there. Because they fought, Hyun-soo said. The jungle responds to how you treat it. Come in with weapons and it defends itself. Come in with respect and it cooperates. I have documentation of everything. He pushed his notebooks forward. Growing conditions, harvest methods, sustainable practices. Everything needed to develop Virtus 7 without destroying it. The council chamber erupted in discussion. Delegates argued with each other in a dozen languages. Some thought Hyun-soo was lying. Others were interested in the economic possibilities. A few just wanted more tea. Taemin stepped forward, seizing the moment. Earth proposes a joint development project. We provide agricultural expertise. The council provides resources and support. Virtus 7 becomes a shared asset. Profitable for everyone, it was a bold move. Earth was the newest council member, barely respected. But Hyun-soo had just proven that humans brought valuable skills. Skills no other species seemed to have. The discussion went on for hours. Hyun-soo sat quietly, answering questions when asked, showing samples, explaining methods. He spoke simply and clearly, like he was teaching a gardening class instead of negotiating with galactic leaders. Finally, Velrath raised his hand for silence. The council will consider Earth's proposal. We will study the data and samples. There will be further discussion. It wasn't yes, but it wasn't no either. It was the beginning of something. After the meeting, Minho and Hyun-soo walked through the station together. The Cathari scientist looked tired but happy. You changed everything, Minho said. The council has to take Earth seriously now. Maybe, Hyun-soo said. Or maybe they'll find a way to take the credit and push us aside again. You don't sound worried. I'm not. Hyun-soo gestured to the busy station around them. Because I brought back seeds. Real growing seeds. And knowledge. They can try to take credit, but they can't take away what I taught people. Jiwoo has seeds now. So do the doctors who examine me. So do you. That knowledge will spread, Minho smiled. You think like a farmer. Plant seeds and watch them grow. It's what I know. They reached the human embassy. Minho paused at the entrance. Thank you, he said, for saving my life, for giving me hope again. Thank you for teaching me about Virtus 7, Hyun-soo replied. And for the tea set. He patted his pack where Minho's gift was carefully stored. Minho left. Hyun-soo went inside and found Jiwoo waiting with Taemin. They both looked at him with expressions he couldn't quite read. What? Hyun-soo asked. You know what you just did, right? Taemin said. You changed Earth's position in the galaxy. In 1 week you did what I've been trying to do for 3 years. Hyun-soo shrugged. I just did my job. I'm a supply officer. I managed resources. Virtus 7 had resources. I documented them. You're being modest. I'm being honest. Hyun-soo sat down, suddenly feeling very tired. They sent me to die because they thought I was worthless. I survived because I used the skills I actually have instead of trying to be something I'm not. That's all. Jiwoo sat beside him. The council still doesn't understand how you did it. They think it's some trick. Let them think that, Hyun-soo said. While they're trying to figure out the trick, we'll be growing gardens. He pulled out the seeds Minho had given him. The ones from the ancient grove. He hadn't shown these to the council. Hadn't mentioned them in his report. Some things were too precious to share yet. Too sacred. What are those? Jiwoo asked. The future, Hyun-soo said quietly. But first we need to prove we can be trusted with it. That night, Hyun-soo stood in the observation deck looking out at the stars. Virtus 7 was visible, a green glowing dot against the black. He sipped tea from Minho's gift and thought about everything that happened. They sent him to die. He came back with tea and seasoning and hope. and maybe, just maybe, a better way forward for everyone. Behind him, the station buzzed with activity. Word was spreading about the human who gardened on a death world. Some laughed. Some were impressed. Part 3 Minho led Hyun-soo through a hidden entrance in the facility. The door was almost invisible under all the vines. Inside, the building was a strange mix of technology and nature. Computer terminals covered in moss, hallways where trees grew through the floor, but it was also clearly lived in. Someone had been surviving here. They walked through several rooms until they reached what looked like an old cafeteria. Minho had set up camp here. A sleeping bag in one corner, supplies stacked neatly, and in the middle of the room something that made Hyun-soo stop and stare. A garden, not a wild jungle growth. An actual garden with rows, different plants organized by type. Some earth vegetables growing next to Virtus 7 plants. Tomatoes beside glowing fungi. Beans climbing up vines that pulsed with blue light. "You're a farmer," Hyun-soo said quietly. "I'm a scientist," Minho corrected. "Or I was. Now I'm just trying to stay alive." He sat down on a box and suddenly looked very tired. "I was part of the original research team. 12 of us. We were studying the plants here, trying to find medicine. What happened?" Minho was quiet for a moment. "We got greedy. We started taking too much. Cutting plants. Killing them to study them. The jungle didn't like that." He looked up at Hyun-soo. "I know how that sounds. Jungles don't think or feel. But this one does. Or something in it does." He stood up and walked to his garden. After the first week, everything changed. The plants started growing faster. Getting more toxic. They grew through our walls. Our air filters couldn't keep up. One by one, my team died. His voice got very quiet. "I watched them die. Couldn't help them. But you survived," Hyun-soo said. "I survived because I stopped fighting." Minho touched one of the tomato plants gently. "When I was the last one left, I was going to die too. The jungle was crushing the building. Growing through everything. I had maybe hours left." He smiled, but it was a sad smile. Then I remembered something my grandmother taught me. She was a farmer, back on my homeworld. She always said plants respond to how you treat them. He looked at Hyun-soo. "So I tried something crazy. I opened my suit. Not all the way, just a little. Let the air in. Then I took seeds from our emergency food supplies and planted them, right there in the floor where the jungle had broken through." "You made an offering," Hyun-soo said. "I made a garden," Minho corrected. "And the jungle paused. The vines that were crushing the wall stopped growing. Not everywhere, but around my garden. Like it was curious," he laughed. "I kept planting. Kept tending. Kept talking to the plants like my grandmother did. And slowly, the jungle stopped trying to kill me." Hyun-soo walked around the garden looking at everything. "You're not just surviving. You're farming, crossing earth plants with local ones. Some of them cross naturally," Minho said. "The jungle's genetic structure is weird, flexible. These plants want to mix, want to share. I've grown things here that shouldn't be possible." He showed Hyun-soo a plant with tomato-like fruits that glowed softly. "This one produces fruit that's safe to eat and full of nutrients. Better than regular tomatoes." "This is amazing," Hyun-soo said. He pulled out his notebook and started sketching. "Have you documented all of this?" "Some, but I've been trapped here for 8 months. I can't get to the main computer. The jungle won't let me near it." "Why not?" Minho shrugged. "I think it doesn't trust me yet. Or maybe it's protecting something. The main computer is in the core lab, and the jungle is thickest there. Every time I try to get close, the vines block me. Not violently, just firmly." Hyun-soo thought about this. "Have you tried asking permission?" Minho blinked. "It's a jungle. It doesn't negotiate." "Everything negotiates," Hyun-soo said. He sat down and opened his pack. Inside were all the seeds and cuttings he had brought from the station. "I brought gifts, plants from Earth, things that don't grow here." He spread them out on the floor. Mint seeds, basil, chamomile. A small cutting from a rosebush carefully preserved. Seeds from a dozen other plants. "What are you doing?" Minho asked. "Getting ready to make a trade," Hyun-soo said. "You give me access to your computer. I give the jungle something it doesn't have. Plants from another world. Genetic diversity. New possibilities. That's crazy." "Maybe." Hyun-soo stood up. "But you're alive because you planted a garden." "I'm alive because I made tea. Maybe this jungle doesn't want to kill everyone. Maybe it just wants to be treated with respect." They spent the rest of the day preparing. Minho showed Hyunsu around the facility, pointing out where the main computer was. The entrance to that section was completely blocked by vines as thick as Hyunsu's arm. They pulsed with light in a slow rhythm, like breathing. Hyunsu studied the vines carefully. He touched one gently. It was warm and moved slightly under his hand, but didn't pull away or grab him, just aware. Tomorrow, he said. We try tomorrow. Give me tonight to prepare. That evening, Hyunsu made a ceremony out of it. He knew the jungle probably didn't understand human customs, but it felt right anyway. He selected the best seeds from his collection. He mixed soil from Earth that he had brought with soil from Vertus 7. He prepared pots made from woven vines. Minho watched him work. You really think this will work? I think the jungle is watching us right now, Hyunsu said. I think it's been watching since I arrived. It could have killed me a dozen times but didn't. That means it's at least curious. He planted mint first, then basil, then chamomile. Each seed went into its pot with care. He watered them with water he had collected from the stream and boiled. Then he did something that made Minho stare. He made tea from Vertus 7 leaves and poured some onto each pot of earth seeds. Mixing them, Hyunsu explained, showing the jungle that I'm not here to keep things separate. I'm here to blend, to create something new together. They slept that night in the cafeteria. Hyunsu dreamed of gardens that stretched across planets full of plants that glowed and grew and mixed together in ways no one had ever seen. Morning came early. Hyunsu woke up and checked his pots. Already tiny green shoots were pushing through the soil. The seeds were sprouting way faster than they should. He smiled. The jungle was helping them grow. He picked up the pots and walked to the blocked entrance. Minho followed, nervous but curious. The vines were still there, thick and impassable. Hyunsu knelt in front of them. He set the pots down gently. I brought you a gift, he said out loud. He felt silly talking to plants, but he did it anyway. Seeds from my world. Things you've never seen before. They're yours, a trade. You let us pass, we share our plants with you. Nothing happened for a long moment. Minho shifted behind him, clearly thinking this wouldn't work. Then the vines moved. Not aggressively. Slowly, gently, they uncurled from the doorway. They reached toward the pots, thin tendrils extending, touching the soil. Feeling the tiny sprouts, the vines pulled back further, creating an opening big enough for a person to walk through. Minho made a sound like a gasp. It worked. It actually worked. Hyunsu picked up the pots carefully and stepped through the opening. The vines stayed back, giving them room. He placed the pots on the floor just inside, in a spot where light came through holes in the ceiling. Keep them safe, he said to the vines. Help them grow. The vines curled around the pots protectively, not crushing them, sheltering them. Hyunsu and Minho walked deeper into the section. The jungle had grown through here too, but it moved aside as they approached, making a path, allowing them through. The main computer was in the center lab, surrounded by equipment covered in moss and fungi. But the computer itself was untouched. The jungle had grown around it, but not through it. Like it was protecting the machine. Minho rushed to the terminal and powered it on. Lights flickered. The screen glowed. It was working. The data's all here, Minho said, his hands shaking as he checked the files. 8 months of research. Everything we learned before things went wrong, and... He paused, staring at the screen. There's more. The computer kept recording data even after we left. Automatic sensors. It documented everything the jungle did. He opened the files. Pages and pages of information about plant growth, chemical compounds, genetic changes. The jungle hadn't just killed the research team. It had been learning, adapting, creating new species. This is incredible, Minho whispered. This data is worth more than we ever imagined. Hyunsu looked around the lab. Through gaps in the walls, he could see the jungle outside. It glowed softly in the morning light. Beautiful and alive and strange. It's not just data, Hyunsu said. This whole planet is trying to teach us something. Teach us what? Hyunsu smiled. That we don't have to fight nature to live with it. We just have to learn its language. Part 4. Minho spent 2 hours downloading data from the computer. Files and files of research, medical information about the plants, chemical formulas, genetic maps, all the knowledge that people had died trying to protect. Hyunsu didn't watch the computer. He explored the lab instead, looking at the equipment and samples. The jungle had grown through some of it, but not destructively. More like it was examining everything, Learning, he found jars of preserved specimens, seeds in storage, research notes written by hand. One notebook belonged to someone named Dr. Keiko. She had been studying the fungi. Her last entry was dated 8 months ago. The spores are not killing us, she had written. We are killing ourselves by fighting them. Must try different approach. The entry ended there. Hyun-soo closed the notebook gently. Dr. Keiko had figured it out, but too late. Download's done, Minho said. He held up a small data chip. Everything's on here. We could leave now. Get this back to the council. Hyun-soo looked at him. We have 3 more days until extraction. What if we use them? For what? A full survey of the jungle. Proper documentation. If this planet is as valuable as I think it is, we need to know everything it can offer. Minho looked uncertain. That's dangerous. We've been lucky so far. It's not luck, Hyun-soo said. The jungle is cooperating because we're cooperating with it. Let's see what else it wants to show us. They spent the next 3 days doing something no one had ever done on Virtus 7. They explored it like scientists, not soldiers. Hyun-soo brought his farming knowledge. Minho brought his scientific training. Together, they cataloged everything they found. On the first day, they discovered a type of fungus growing near the facility's water supply. Minho analyzed it and found something amazing. The fungus concentrated rare minerals from the soil. It pulled them out and stored them in crystal formations inside its cap. These minerals are worth a fortune, Minho said, examining a sample. They're used in medicine across the galaxy. Normally, you have to mine them from asteroids, but this fungus just grows them naturally. Hyun-soo carefully collected samples and made notes about where they grew. If we harvest them correctly, the fungus will keep producing, like picking fruit from a tree. On the second day, they found the tea plants. Hyun-soo had been making tea from random leaves, but Minho led him to a grove where specific plants grew. Their leaves were silver green and smelled like mint and cinnamon mixed together. I found these months ago, Minho said. I've been drinking tea from them every day. It helps with focus and energy. Better than any stimulant I've ever used and no side effects. They collected seeds and leaves carefully. Hyun-soo showed Minho how to dry the leaves properly for storage. People will pay a lot for this. Not just for the effects, but because it tastes good. That afternoon, they discovered something even better. In a clearing where sunlight broke through the canopy, they found fruit trees. The fruits were golden and smelled sweet. When Minho tested them, his hands started shaking. What is it? Hyun-soo asked. These fruits, Minho stared at his scanner. The compounds in them are similar to drugs we use to fight cancer. But more effective. Much more effective. He looked up at Hyun-soo. If we can cultivate these, it could save millions of lives. Hyun-soo very carefully collected seeds from the fruits. He also made detailed sketches of the trees, noting everything about how they grew, what soil they liked, how much sun, what other plants grew nearby. Companion planting, he explained to Minho. These trees grow well with those vines and that fungus. They help each other. We'll need to recreate the whole ecosystem to grow them successfully. On the third day, they went deeper into the jungle than Minho had ever gone before. The plants here were older, bigger. Some of the trees were massive, wide as a house. And at the very center, they found something that took their breath away. A grove of ancient trees surrounded a pool of crystal-clear water. The trees had white bark that glowed like moonlight. Their leaves were silver, and hanging from their branches were seed pods the size of Hyun-soo's head. What are those? Hyun-soo whispered. Minho approached carefully, scanner running. When he read the results, he had to sit down. These pods, the compounds inside them, they're incredible. Anti-aging properties, cell regeneration, disease resistance. He looked up at Hyun-soo with wide eyes. This is what the jungle was protecting. This is why it killed everyone who came here with weapons and saws. Hyun-soo understood immediately. The previous teams had come to take, to cut and harvest and destroy. The jungle had protected its most precious treasure the only way it could. We're not taking them, Hyun-soo said. What? But these could... We're not taking them, Hyun-soo repeated firmly. This is sacred ground. The heart of the jungle. We document it. We respect it. But we don't take from it. He looked at Minho. Not yet. Not until we've proven we can be trusted. Minho wanted to argue. Hyun-soo could see it in his face. These pods could make them rich. Could save countless lives. But slowly Minho nodded. You're right, he said quietly. If we take from here, we're no better than the others. The jungle would turn on us. They spent an hour in the grove just observing, taking notes, making sketches. Hyun-soo collected a few fallen leaves from the ground, but nothing more. As they left, Hyun-soo paused and bowed to the ancient trees. "Thank you for showing us," he said. "We'll come back someday, when we've earned the right." The trees seemed to glow a little brighter. Back at the facility, they spent their last evening organizing everything they had learned. Minho had the data on his chip. Hyun-soo had notebooks full of sketches and notes. They had samples of fungi, dried tea leaves, seeds, and carefully preserved cuttings. "The council won't believe half of this," Minho said. "Then we'll prove it to them," Hyun-soo replied. He was packing his samples carefully, making sure each one had proper soil and moisture. "We'll grow these plants on the station. Show them what Virtus 7 can offer when you work with it instead of against it." Minho looked at the human who had arrived 4 days ago expecting to die. "You planned this, didn't you?" "From the beginning. I planned to survive," Hyun-soo said. "The rest just made sense. Humans have been farmers for 10,000 years. We know how to read land, how to understand what it needs and what it can give." He smiled. "The galaxy thinks of us as weak. But farming isn't weak. It's the foundation of civilization." That night, Jiwoo contacted them from orbit. She had been watching Hyun-soo's biosigns the whole time, and they had gotten stranger every day. "The toxin levels in your blood are higher than ever," she said, worried. "But somehow you're healthier. I don't understand it." "My body is adapting," Hyun-soo explained. "The toxins aren't poison anymore. They're medicine. They're making me stronger." "That shouldn't be possible." "Maybe not for other species," Hyun-soo said. "But humans evolved on Earth, one of the most variable planets in the galaxy. Hot deserts, frozen tundra, jungles, mountains, oceans. Our bodies learned to adapt to anything. That's our gift." Jiwoo was quiet for a moment. "The council is watching. They know you're alive. She paused. "They're interested now. Suddenly everyone wants to know what you're doing." Hyun-soo smiled. "Tell them I'm gardening and making tea. That's what has them interested. You weren't supposed to survive, let alone thrive. They're calling you the gardener now." Some are impressed. Others are angry that a human succeeded where their soldiers failed. "Let them be angry," Hyun-soo said. "Tomorrow we bring back proof that there's a better way." On the morning of extraction, Hyun-soo and Minho stood in the clearing waiting for Krell's ship. Hyun-soo's pack was full, but not with weapons or treasure, with seeds and samples and knowledge. With the future, Minho carried the data chip with all the research. But he also carried something else. A small box that Hyun-soo had helped him make, filled with dried tea leaves and a simple cup. "For Ambassador Tai-min," Minho said, to thank him for sending someone who understood. The ship appeared through the canopy. As it landed, the jungle pulled back slightly, giving it room. Like it was saying goodbye. Krell opened the door and stared. He had expected to find bodies. Instead, he found 2 people standing next to a garden. An actual planted garden with neat rows of vegetables. What in the void? Krell couldn't finish his sentence. Hyun-soo offered him a cup of tea. "We had extra time. Seemed wasteful not to use it." Krell took the cup with a shaking claw. He sipped it. His eyes widened. This is really good. "It's from Virtus 7, Hyun-soo said. "The planet isn't a graveyard. It's a garden. We just had to learn how to see it." Part 2. The dropship shook as it entered Virtus 7's atmosphere. Hyun-soo sat strapped in his seat, watching through the small window as clouds gave way to an endless sea of green. The jungle covered everything. Mountains, valleys, even what looked like old rivers. All of it was green and glowing with strange light. The pilot was a Throxian named Krell. He looked like a big crab with too many arms and small black eyes that never blinked. He had been flying missions for 40 years and had seen everything, but even he sounded nervous when he spoke. "Last chance to back out," Krell said through the intercom. No shame in it. "This planet is a graveyard." Hyun-soo checked his equipment one more time. Respirator working. Suit sealed but breathable. Pack secure. "I'm ready. Your funeral." Krell brought the ship down through the canopy. Trees scraped against the hull, something that might have been birds scattered screaming. The ship landed hard in a small clearing. Krell hit the door release. "You've got 7 days until I come back. The toxic interference gets worse after that. Can't fly through it safely. If you're not at this exact spot in 7 days, you're stuck here for 3 months." He paused. "No one lasts 3 days. Then I'll try for 4, Hyun-soo said. He grabbed his pack and stepped out into the jungle. The door slammed shut behind him. The ship's engines roared. Hyunsu stepped back as it lifted off, blasting dirt and leaves everywhere. Then it was gone, disappearing into the glowing green canopy above. Silence fell, except it wasn't really silent. The jungle was full of sounds. Buzzing, clicking, rustling, things moving that Hyunsu couldn't see. The air smelled sweet and rotten at the same time, like flowers and garbage mixed together. His scanner started beeping immediately. Red warnings filled the small screen. Toxic spores in the air, poisonous compounds in the plants, dangerous bacteria in the soil. Everything around him could kill him in a dozen different ways. Hyunsu turned off the sound alarm. The screen was still covered in warnings, but at least it wasn't beeping anymore. He pulled out his notebook and started walking, marking down what he saw. The trees were huge, bigger than any trees on Earth. Their bark glowed with blue and green light. Fungi grew on everything, some the size of his hand, others bigger than his head. They pulsed with soft light like they were breathing. Vines hung everywhere. Some were thin as string, others were thick as his leg. When Hyunsu got too close, some of them moved, curling away from him like they were afraid. Others moved toward him like they were curious. He found a stream after an hour of walking. The water was clear, but his scanner said it was full of chemicals that would burn his throat if he drank it. Hyunsu knelt down and filled a bottle anyway. He would boil it later, see what happened. By the time the sun started to set, making the whole jungle glow even brighter, Hyunsu had found a good spot for camp. A small hill with fewer trees where he could see in all directions. He set up his tent, which was really just a tough sheet of fabric stretched between poles. Then he set up his perimeter sensors, small devices that would beep if anything big came close. He gathered wood from fallen branches and built a fire. His scanner didn't like that either. The smoke from the burning wood mixed with the spores in the air and created new chemical compounds. But Hyunsu noticed something interesting. The plants near the smoke pulled back slightly. Just a few centimeters, but they definitely moved away from the fire. While water boiled over the fire, Hyunsu examined the plants he had collected during his walk. Leaves, stems, flowers, all of them labeled as toxic by his scanner. He sorted them carefully using his nose and eyes like his grandmother had taught him years ago. This leaf smelled bitter. That one smelled almost like mint. This stem was tough and fibrous. That flower had soft petals that left yellow dust on his gloves. He selected 3 different types of leaves. Put them in his boiling water. Made tea. His scanner went crazy. Extreme hazard. Do not consume. Lethal compounds detected. Hyunsu let the tea cool, then took a small sip through his respirator's drinking port. It tasted terrible. Bitter and earthy like drinking dirt, but it was warm and it didn't kill him. He waited 10 minutes monitoring his body. No burning throat, no stomach pain. No dizziness. He took another sip. Then another. Up in orbit, Jiwoo watched her monitor screen with growing horror. Hyunsu's biosigns showed toxic compounds entering his bloodstream. Not a lot, but enough that she could see them. She grabbed her communicator. "Hyunsu, what are you doing?" "I'm reading toxins in your blood." His voice came back calm. "Drinking tea. Day 1 successful. Camp established. You're drinking poison." "I'm building resistance," he corrected. "Small amounts. Controlled exposure. My body will learn to handle it." "That's insane. You could die." "Maybe. But everyone who came here before tried to keep the jungle out completely. Sealed suits. Filtered everything. Then when the suits broke, they had no resistance at all. Instant death." There was a pause. "I'm trying a different way." Jiwoo wanted to order him to stop, but she wasn't his commander. She could only watch. Day 2 started early. Hyunsu woke up feeling fine. Better than fine, actually. The small amount of toxins in his system seemed to make him more alert. His scanner confirmed that his body was already producing antibodies to some of the compounds. He ate a breakfast of ration bars, then started walking toward where his map said the research facility should be. He marked trees as he went, using a knife to cut small symbols into the bark, breadcrumbs to find his way back. Around mid-morning, he found the first body. It was a Cathari soldier still in their combat armor. The armor was top grade, designed to keep out any toxin in the galaxy, but something had torn through it. The seals were broken. Fungus grew through the cracks, white threads that had consumed most of the body inside. Hyunsu knelt beside the corpse. He felt sad looking at it. This person had come here to help and they died. He studied the armor carefully, taking notes. The design was all about keeping things out. Perfect seal. Complete barrier. Nothing gets in, nothing gets out. When something did get in, the soldier inside had no defense. Just sudden exposure to everything at once. Hyun-soo looked at his own suit. It was basic, cheap even, but it breathed. Air came in through filters, but it came in. He wasn't trying to create a bubble between himself and the jungle. He was learning to exist inside it. He said a quiet prayer for the dead soldier and kept walking. By day 3, Hyun-soo was eating jungle food. He had tested different plants carefully, trying tiny amounts and waiting to see what happened. Some made him sick. He marked those in his notebook with a red X. Others were fine. He marked those with a green check. He found shoots that tasted like asparagus, roots that were starchy like potatoes, berries that were sweet but had to be cooked first to break down the toxins. He made a stew in a small pot, mixing jungle plants with some rice from his rations. It tasted strange but good. His scanner said the meal contained 17 different poisonous compounds. His body said it was dinner. Ji-woo watched the toxin levels in his blood climb higher. Not dangerously high, but way higher than any human should survive. She contacted medical specialists on the station. They looked at the data and couldn't explain it. He should be dead, one doctor said, or at least very sick. But Hyun-soo reported feeling great. His messages were cheerful. He described the jungle like it was a park, not a death trap. He sent her photos of plants and asked if she could identify any of them. On day 4, he found the facility. It was worse than the hollows had shown. The building was half buried in vegetation. Vines covered the wall so thick he couldn't see the metal underneath. The roof had collapsed in places, letting trees grow up through the middle. Fungus covered everything. But Hyun-soo noticed something strange. The growth wasn't random. The vines grew in patterns, almost like they were placed deliberately. Some areas were completely overgrown. Other areas were clear, like something had been maintaining the space. He approached slowly, his sensor in one hand, his knife in the other. Not to fight, just to cut vines if he needed to. That's when he heard the voice. "Stop right there." Hyun-soo froze. The voice spoke through a translator, which meant it wasn't human. He raised his hand slowly. "I'm not here to fight. I'm here to help." "Help?" The voice laughed. It sounded tired, sad. "No one comes here to help. Everyone who comes here dies." A figure stepped out from behind a wall of vines. He was Cathari, with blue scales and red eyes, but his armor was covered in mud and plants. He looked thin, tired, but alive. In his hand was a piece of purple fruit, the same fruit Hyun-soo had roasted over his fire that morning. They stared at each other. The Cathari looked at Hyun-soo, looked at the fruit in Hyun-soo's hand, looked back at Hyun-soo. "You're eating the fruit," the Cathari said slowly. "The toxic fruit." "It's not toxic if you cook it first," Hyun-soo said. He reached into his pack and pulled out a piece of dried meat he had made from fungus protein. "Want to trade? I have jerky." The Cathari stared at him for a long moment. Then he started laughing. Not happy laughter. The kind of laughter that comes when something is so crazy you don't know what else to do. "You made jerky," the Cathari said, "on the death planet. You made jerky." He lowered his weapon. "My name is Minho, and I think you and I need to talk." Part 1. The lights in the council chamber were too bright. Tae-min stood straight, his hands behind his back, trying not to show how nervous he felt. Around him sat the aliens who ruled the galaxy, big ones, small ones, some that looked like rocks and others that floated in tanks of purple liquid. All of them were staring at him. Tae-min was Earth's ambassador. He had only been doing this job for 6 months. Earth had only been part of the Galactic Council for 3 years. In galaxy time, that was nothing. The other species had been traveling through space for thousands of years. Humans were the new kids who barely knew how to leave their own solar system. Commander Velrath stood up. He was Cathari, which meant he looked like a tall lizard covered in blue scales. His eyes were red and cold. When he spoke, everyone listened. "We have a problem," Velrath said. His voice came out as a hiss through the translator device everyone wore. "The colony on Vertis 7 has been lost." A hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed a planet covered in thick green jungle. The trees glowed with strange light. Even through the hologram, the place looked dangerous. "Vertis 7 was one of our research colonies," Velrath continued. We were studying the native plants for medicine. Very valuable medicine. Then something went wrong. The plants started changing. Growing faster. Becoming toxic. Our research team sent a distress call, then went silent. Another hologram appeared. This one showed a building being swallowed by plants. Thick vines crushed metal walls. Strange fungus ate through the roof. We sent a military team to rescue them, Velrath said. All dead. We sent another team to recover the bodies and the research data. Also dead, we sent drones. The jungle destroyed them. Everything we send to that planet dies within 3 days. The room was quiet. Taemin felt sweat on his neck. Why was Velrath telling everyone this? What did it have to do with Earth? The research data is still there, Velrath said. In the main computer. The information could save billions of lives across the galaxy. We need someone to go down, get into the facility, download the data, and get out. Simple mission. Except everything dies there. A Throxian delegate who looked like a floating jellyfish made a bubbling sound. Then we must accept the loss. No species can survive that environment. Perhaps, Velrath said. His red eyes turned toward Taemin. Unless we send someone we can afford to lose. Someone expendable. Someone who wants to prove they belong on this council. Taemin's blood went cold. He knew exactly what Velrath meant. The other species looked at humans as weak, soft, too new to matter. If they wanted to send someone to die, they would send a human. You want one of my people for this mission, Taemin said slowly. We are offering your people a chance for glory. Velrath replied with a smile that showed too many teeth. If a human succeeds where our best soldiers failed, imagine the honor. Earth would be respected throughout the galaxy. It was a trap, a beautiful, cruel trap. If Taemin said no, it proved humans were cowards. If he said yes, someone would die. But maybe, just maybe, if they were very lucky and very smart, a human could actually survive. Taemin nodded. Earth accepts this mission. Back at the human embassy, Taemin's assistant Jiwoo was furious. She was young, maybe 25, with short black hair and eyes that burned with anger. This is murder, she said, pacing back and forth in Taemin's office. They're sending someone to die just to embarrass us. I know, Taemin said quietly. He looked tired, old. Then let me go, Jiwoo said. I volunteer. I'm a scientist. I know about plants and toxic environments. No, Taemin shook his head. Velrath already said no civilians. It has to be someone from our military detachment. Someone trained? Trained for what? This isn't a combat mission. It's a death sentence. Taemin pulled up a file on his computer. The council is sending someone they choose. Someone from our military who they think is expendable. He turned the screen toward Jiwoo. They chose him. Jiwoo looked at the file. The photo showed a man in his early 30s with a calm face and tired eyes. His name was Hyun-soo, Corporal Hyun-soo. His job title was Supply Management Officer. A supply officer? Jiwoo said. They're not even sending a soldier. Someone who fights. He manages inventory for the embassy, Taemin said. Food, equipment, schedules. He's never seen combat. His record says he's quiet, efficient, and unremarkable. Taemin closed his eyes. They picked him because losing him won't matter. Jiwoo felt sick. Some poor supply officer who counted boxes and organized shipments was being sent to die on a toxic jungle planet because aliens wanted to prove humans were worthless. When does he leave? She asked. 2 days. Hyun-soo took the news calmly. Too calmly. Taemin called him into the office and explained the mission. Told him the truth that everyone sent to Virtus 7 had died. Told him the council expected him to fail. Told him he could refuse and no one would blame him. Hyun-soo listened to everything, then asked one question. How long do I have to prepare? 2 days, Taemin said. Okay. Hyun-soo stood up. I'll need access to the embassy's supply budget. And permission to visit the station markets, Taemin blinked. The markets? Don't you want weapons? Special training? Combat gear? No, sir, Hyun-soo said. I need seeds. For the next 2 days, Hyun-soo did strange things. He didn't train with weapons. He didn't study combat tactics. Instead, he visited every shop on the station that sold plants, seeds, or farming equipment. He bought packets of seeds from Earth, small garden tools, and bags of different soils. He filled notebooks with drawings of plants and notes about growing seasons. Jiwoo followed him on the second day. She couldn't help herself. She found him in a quiet corner of the station's observation deck, sorting seeds into small paper packets. "What are you doing?" she asked. Hyunsu looked up and smiled. It was a gentle smile, the kind that made him look younger. "Preparing properly. By sorting seeds, you're going to a planet that kills everything." "What good are seeds?" "Maybe none," Hyunsu admitted. He held up a packet. "These are mint seeds. My grandmother grew mint in her garden back in Seoul. She always said mint was tough. It grows almost anywhere if you treat it right." "That planet isn't anywhere," Jiwoo said. "It's hell." "Maybe." Hyunsu went back to his sorting. "But I'm a supply officer, not a soldier. I know about logistics, about making things work with what you have, about managing resources." He looked up at her again. "Fighting isn't always the answer. Sometimes you need a different approach." Jiwoo wanted to argue, wanted to tell him he was being stupid. But something about his calm confidence made her stop. This man knew he might die, and he was packing seeds and tea. "Why did you volunteer?" she asked quietly. "I didn't volunteer," Hyunsu said. "I was chosen. But I'm going anyway because someone has to go, and because maybe, just maybe, everyone else has been doing this wrong." He stood up and stretched. "Before humans were soldiers, we were farmers. We know how to work with nature, not just fight it. That planet isn't nature. It's a killer." Hyunsu packed his seeds carefully into his bag. "All nature can kill you if you don't respect it. But most nature will work with you if you learn its rules." On the morning of his departure, Hyunsu stood in the docking bay with his equipment. No fancy armor. Just a basic environmental suit, a respirator, some tools, and his pack full of seeds and notebooks. He looked more like a gardener going to work than a soldier going to war. Taemin came to see him off. So did Jiwoo and a few other embassy staff. They all looked sad, like they were at a funeral. "Good luck," Taemin said, shaking Hyunsu's hand. "Thank you, sir." Hyunsu picked up his pack. "I'll try to bring back your data. And maybe some good tea." He walked onto the ship. The door closed behind him. Jiwoo watched the ship pull away from the station, heading toward the green, glowing planet that had killed everyone who went there. She pulled out her tablet and opened the monitoring program. As long as Hyunsu wore his suit, she could track his vital signs. Heart rate, oxygen levels, toxin exposure. She would watch every moment. Even though she knew how it would end. Everyone sent to Virtus 7 died within 3 days. Hyunsu had 2 days to prepare. Now he had 7 days, until the next extraction window. Jiwoo looked at the green planet and whispered a prayer she didn't really believe in. "Come back alive," she said to the empty docking bay. "Please."